Right, hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of The Golfer's Guide. A big thank you for all the positive comments and the reaction to the last one. It was fantastic, really good to see that you guys are liking the new series. So episode 2, let's roll straight into it. If you don't already though guys, do remember to hit that subscribe button down below, turn on the bell notifications and follow me on my other social media platforms so when I post the questions, your questions could hopefully be answered in the next episode. Hit it down below, don't miss it. So Nicholas Mazur asks, what is the difference of my level of golf today and the level of a tour pro playing on the Challenge Tour, for instance? From where I am today with my game, I would say when I was playing a bit of Euro Pro and things like that, I would say actually probably now I'm a better golfer. I've got more control of my golf ball, but I'm not as sharp because I don't practice. So I'll probably I'll go through stints where I'll play once in 2 months and maybe hit a bucket of balls at the range, but don't really get to play that much, so I'm not as sharp as I normally would be, but I've definitely got more control of the ball. Where's my level with a pro? I would say I'm probably a very good club player, like a county player sort of thing maybe at the moment. With some practice I'd fancy my chances again, because like I say, I do feel like I've got more control of the golf ball, but it's nowhere near to being anywhere near to get on a Challenge Tour or anything like that at the moment. So great question from Gary Davis regarding wedges. Should they have flatter lie angles than the remainder of your iron set? I have a lot of problems with pulling my wedges left. Now what I would imagine, Gary, is that you've probably had a custom fitting and you've made your wedges the same lie as your irons. What you would find from a tour player is that they generally don't do that. They'll have them at the standard lie angle and even sometimes a little bit flatter, because when they're opening up the wedge, what they don't want to do is compromise the bounce and the sole of the wedge. If the wedge is too upright, when you get that face open for playing a flop shot and things like this, you would see that the toe's sticking up in the air. Also, the wedge shaft itself is quite steep. The plane of the swing is a lot steeper considered to a 7-iron and driver. So if you have already made that wedge upright, you probably will struggle with some pulls. So I would go to your local pro or local fitting centre and maybe just have them bent back to the standard lie and possibly even a degree flat, and see if that can start to alter the problem. And like I say, when you're round the greens and pitching and chipping, they'll just be a little bit more versatile with those there. Okay, GibWire86. Hi Matt, could you suggest a Taylormade iron suitable for a mid-handicapper? Thanks. Yes, can do, and as we all saw, probably the title was about the mid-handicap irons. Taylormade, what I would go for at the moment out of the current line would be the Sim Max iron. There obviously are other brands out there. You know, I've got a list here. For the Callaway iron, we'd be looking for something like the Maverick Max. The Cobras would be looking for the Speed Zone iron. And the Titleists would be looking at sort of the T300 lineup, Pings, G710s, and then one really good mid-handicap iron that I've seen that quite a few of my lessons have got, and I've instructed a few others to take a look at is the Wilson Staff, the D7 iron. Fantastic iron. And the reason these irons, I've recommended all of them for the mid-handicapper is because we would see generally that they've got a lot of perimeter weighting. So the way the mass is structured around the head, it goes around the outside. It's not all just behind the sweet spot like you would see with a blade, where it's more, towards the center of the golf club, and we've not got big weights on either side of the toe and the heel. These mid-handicapper irons have that. Also, the soles are a little bit wider, so your turf interaction, if you're not quite picking it perfectly and compressing it every time, you just get away with a little bit more, so your iron strikes are going to be a little bit more consistent there. Also, they're designed with that perimeter weighting being more towards the bottom of the club, towards the sole, and having that slightly bigger sole, you're going to be able to launch them higher from there. And then the lofts also, with the way clubs are going now, we all know that clubs are getting stronger lofts, but with this higher launch aspect, you're still able to get more distance while maintaining the height and the flight of the golf club. If you were to just put a 5-iron stamp on a 2-iron, you'd probably struggle to get it up in the air, but the way they're built, they are aided to get you launching the golf ball a little bit easier. Big thing on this though, Gib, will be go and get yourself a fitting. As always, you know, big advocate of club fitting. There's so many out there. It might be that you've got a full bag of Taylormade and you want to stay in the Taylormade family, but if you were to go and try the Mavic, the D7, the Speed Zone, whatever it may be, you might find that one is a real outlier and really is performing much better than that Taylormade set you'd want to, and it might be that they make the way into the bag and you see that your golf scores come down a lot more and you see a lot more consistency from your game. So Sim Max would be the Taylormade, but those other ones that we can see there now, those will be other things to bear in mind as we're going through it. So Andy Matthews has asked, do you advise a golfer to keep some basic stats, and what stats? And also, do you recommend any apps or websites to help with this? Yes, I think it's great when golfers keep stats. Obviously, it helps you to keep track of your game, what's working, what's not working. And actually it gives you an honest evaluation. You know, you can't lie on them if you are using some of the apps or you're using the trackers. When I get a client who comes in and, you know, provides me with a lot of stats and the details, obviously, you know, that they're passionate about the game and they want to see the improvement, and also we can see where that improvement needs to be made. In terms of what you should be keeping, if you were going just sort of basic borderline stats, fairways hit, greens hit, putts per green, putts per round, and sand saves and up and downs would be, you know, very basic stuff. You can get into, you know, obviously the age of technology now, you can get into some real deep stats, you know, proximity to the hole, percentages of fairways missed to the right, percentages of fairways missed to the left, percentages of greens missed short, long, right, left. There's a lot of things that you can do. Some websites that you can use for this, the Golf Shake one's a very good one, a free one that can be used. 18 Birdies is a good one. I've tested the Shot Scope Watch Out, which is fantastic, which you put the tags into the clubs, and when you use them, gives you an average distance of all your clubs as well, which is great because I think a lot of people don't know the distances with their irons. So that builds that up into that spectrum as well, which is a fantastic one. The Garmin stuff's really good as well. There's loads out there. I think it's, you know, find out what your budget is, what you want from it, and then, you know, go and choose one. Test a few out, you know, obviously we've all got smartphones nowadays, so we could test 3 or 4 apps out on the smartphone and see which one works best for you and that you find most comfortable using, and then go from there. Even Taylormade have got their own platform for actually tracking stats, so there's plenty of things out there, and I think it's a great idea to do. Anton F002 has asked, I've tried to use more hips lately, but as a consequence of that, I've started duffing the ball. What to do? Well, Anton, why firstly have you started using more hips? Is it to generate more rotation so you can hit it further? Is it because you were picking the club up with your arms and there was no body involved? And then using your hips, are you using them in the correct manner? What we could see is that you think you're, you know, rotating and actually getting a good pivot in your golf swing, but actually what you're doing is just swaying and sliding throughout. So how you are using them actually controls where the low point of your arc being. If we think where my mic is here now, where my sternum is, the golf swing's low point is directly below that. If I'm moving from side to side by shifting my hips and swaying and sliding, I'm going to be affecting where that low point is. Thus, I would start duffing my shots. There's loads of drills already on the channel for things like this. I also do offer online lessons at Skillist. The information's in the link down below. You can get a lesson on there and I can tell you, you know, where you need to be going with those things. So check out some of the videos on there, but you know, you need to be using them in the correct manner. I would say that's probably why you're duffing the ball, probably because there's a lot of lateral movement instead of rotation. Okay, so Chris Dunn asks, what is my favourite open venue? For me, it has to be Carnoustie. Never played it. I've hit a few shots around there last year when we were up doing the Scott vlog challenge last year, and the place just is fantastic. Stayed in the hotel and that was amazing. All the staff were quality. It was a really good experience. The course itself, I think, throws up a fantastic challenge. You know, the old nickname of Carnoustie, and some of the holes I think are just awesome. Another reason I love it as well is my hero when I was playing was Harrington. When I was sort of 21, 22, he was the guy I sort of modelled my game around: work ethic, chipping and pitching all the time. Not, you know, the greatest swinger or striker of the golf ball, but really got the most out of his game. And watching him beat Garcia in the 07 Open was one of the real Opens that I really sat down and watched, you know, every single shot from that one. So Carnoustie for me. I'm going to try and play it if I can this year. If not, it's definitely getting played next year. Okay, Johnny Saxon asks, what is the best home training aid? Now, it depends on what you're working on. We are obviously in a strange situation at the moment where we're all at home. We might be able to hit balls into a net. We might not have the space. So it depends what you're able to, you know, A, do, and also what what you're working on. I think one great thing that I would imagine that every single person at home can do now is get a putting mat of some sort, or even just put on the floor and work on the strokes. So things like the Vizio putting template that you can use gives you a really good idea of how your stroke should be functioning. The actual put-out device is a great thing. I think if we can all use this time wisely, we should all come out of this being really good putters, because we can really graft our strokes in. Other things are things like the, you know, I mentioned earlier, the Skillist app. For, you know, for the price of a training aid, you can get an online lesson with a coach, and they can tell you, you know, drills that you can be working on. It might just be even things that you know, positions in your golf swing. Obviously, it's not a positional game, but if you've got, you know, a grip floor that you can just literally be practicing at home, if you're taking it away to inside just with simple clubs on the floor and working through a drill with a mirror, another great thing to practice at home with, you know, that could be a real benefit. So, you know, there's loads out there, but like I say, it depends on what you're trying to work on and what you're trying to gain from your game. So Matt Baston asks, how is it best to see if you've hit a good shot when using a practice net? Matt Baston asks, how do I know if I've hit a good shot whilst using a practice net at home? Obviously a very relevant question at the moment. We'll all be hitting golf balls, hopefully in nets or in some capacity. Unfortunately, you know, we can't see the full flight of the golf ball. So one of the ways to combat that, and obviously it's a limited option depending on people's budgets, are launch monitors. You know, I've got FlightScope Mevo there, I've got a SkyTrack down here, which I'll be doing a review on, testing them side by side. And you know, unless you've got something like that, you're not going to be able to give a prediction of the ball flight to actually see what happened with it. Hopefully you'll be able to gain some awareness of strike location, so even still putting the dry shampoo on the club and getting an idea of where you're striking it is a good one. You know, you can use this time to really work on getting your strike really centered and actually work on fundamentals like that. One of the things I would suggest, if you do have a net that you're hitting in, maybe drawing or using alignment canes. If you were to place sort of 3 canes in the ground, you know, in front of it, and you try and hit the canes, or if you were to draw targets, obviously you'll see like some of the nets have got like holes in them where you can go for certain things. So in that instance, you know, your initial starting line of where you're flighting the golf ball towards, let's say you've got 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet of flight time, at least then you've got a target to aim for instead of just bashing them into the net willy-nilly. And you can judge yourself on how close you're getting to those targets. And if you know your ball flight laws, if you're aiming at a right target and it's starting left, you've probably come over the top with a club face that's pointing left of that intended target, so you can start to work on things like that. So if you've not got the launch monitor and you've not already got targets, you know, either put some tape on there or draw some things on there to give you something to actually control the ball towards. Okay, and our last one, Tiger Kato asks, there are so many ideas about pitching and chipping, but which one do I use? Yeah, there are. You know, there's lots of ways to chip and pitch, and what I think's different nowadays is a lot of it's backed up with you know, science and actual evidence of what we're trying to tell people. You know, if we look back at the old chipping methods when we were trying to spin it, we were told to put the golf ball at the back of our stance, lean the shaft forwards and hit down on it, which obviously through studies now and with the help of launch monitors, we're able to know that that isn't the correct manner. I think the short game as well is very much trial and error, and it's all about the imagination. You look at someone like Seve, who was, you know, very creative and found ways to solve the problem. He just stood there on the chipping green and found the way to do it, you know, whether it was a 3-iron out of the bunker or, you know, a 7-iron chip and run or a lob wedge and things like that. What I would say is that, you know, for me, the basics, if you were just to go and nail one shot, getting that standard pitch shot where the ball's in the middle, you've not got loads of shaft lean, you've got some weight forwards and you're just grazing the turf. We don't want to be taking big divots. Now, depending on how much hinge you use, that's totally up to you. You look at someone like Phil Mickelson, who's very much a big advocate of having a lot of wrist hinge, setting it and holding it, versus someone like Jason Day, who's very wooden in the wrists and uses a lot of body pivot. Again, that's totally up to you. You'll find one that you are more comfortable with. There's no, you know, you have to pitch it this way. If you don't pitch it this way, I'm adding you a penalty shot on. Find out what works for you through trial and error down at the practice ground and stick to the one that you're most comfortable with. And as you know, your skill level and your acquisition starts to grow of these skills, then you can start to add more into your repertoire of your pitching techniques and your chipping techniques, and then you'll be able to hopefully get up and down from any situation. But you know, big time spent down on the chipping green, just testing all these things out is the way I'd go with it. Okay guys, so that is another episode of the Golfer's Guide. If I haven't answered your question that I posed on Instagram, I will answer those on the story, so check those out. What I will do in future, hopefully, is just do it on an Instagram post so it's easier for me to find them and keep them for the time that we are doing. So do make sure you are following the Instagram and the Facebook page to make sure that your questions are being answered as we go through it. Really enjoying the format, and also what I might try and start to do is put topics in. So one week we might look at custom fitting, one week we might look at drivers, one week we might look at chipping techniques, swing techniques, training aids, whatever it might be, but that will be probably how we start to move this and evolve the show moving forwards. Thank you as always for watching the show. I hope you are enjoying it, and I hope it's giving you a little bit of light relief whilst we are still in this this lockdown period. As always, guys, do remember to hit that subscribe button down below, turn on the bell notification so you're getting your free golf content to give you all the information you need to help you improve as a golfer and let you know what's going on in the golfer's world. Thanks for watching this episode, and I'll see you in another show soon.